Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. It's Tamsin here at Beginners Quilting Hub, and it's Wednesday, which means it's Quilt Tube day. I've got lots to update you on today. So we've got an update on the sew along for the Big T origami quilt, an update on the hometown quilt, an update on the Arabella quilt, and then I also have a little show and tell for you of some sample blocks that I've been making, or that I've made and recently remembered. So I'm going to share those with you as well. So let's get into this week's video. I hope you've all had a really good week. We've had some extraordinary weather over the last week. Really hot weather for here in the UK, and then some really rubbish rainy weather. So we've had a complete mixed bag here. So how's the weather been where you are? I think it's only fair that we start off with the Big T origami sew along, because that is kind of front of mind at the moment. Lots of you have been joining in and sending me pictures of the fabrics that you've chosen or ordered, sample blocks that you've made, and moving forward on your cutting. So last week was, or the goal last week for the schedule was to get everything cut for the quilt front. Let me show you the quilt. That would help, wouldn't it? So this is the quilt that I'm talking about, the Big T origami quilt. So the goal was that we would get everything cut for the entire of the front of the quilt. There's no borders or sashing or anything on this one. It is just pure 12-inch blocks. So yeah, we're going to get everything cut. This week was, from Monday, was to get all the half square triangles sewn. There's quite a few. So that was the goal for this week. I've done mine. I'm a good girl. I do my homework on time. Plus I'm running the sew along, so it would be a bit mad if I was behind. So I'm going to show you a few of the half square triangles. They are quite sizable actually. So let me show you a couple of the ones that I've made. So they are nice big sizes. They're a nice big size. And yes, you make 4 of each. So I made a sample block just to have a go. So this is the one that I made. Let's make sure that's in shot. There we go. I always suggest when you're starting a pattern to have a go at making one block from start to finish. So cut everything out, press it how you're going to press it, sew it how you're going to sew it, with whatever seam allowance you're going to use, whether that's going to be 1/4 of an inch or a scant 1/4 of an inch, and also press it how you're going to press it. So work out, if the pattern isn't clear, which hopefully it would be, but if it isn't clear, which way you're going to press your seams. So yeah, so this one is mine. This is my test block. I really like it actually. It's very bright. The fabrics. So the fabrics are the Facet Collective collection, I think. They are very bright. And yeah, so I've started making, well, all my half square triangles are now done. So I'm ready for next week's, where we're going to be doing flying geese. So they are big, these half square triangles. I think these are my favourites, the bluey purplies. Oh, let's get these on camera. The bluey purpley colours, they're just really nice. So I'm going to have fun with this. So that's where we are. Boom. That is my test block, and I've really enjoyed seeing the test blocks that you guys have been sending to me. Some people have sent them in private messages saying, I don't think these are good enough for me to put on socials. They absolutely are. The purpose of these kind of sew alongs is that we all share and we all show what we're working on. The good, the bad, the ugly, right? So share them, send them to me, and I'm sharing as many as I can on my Instagram feed, because that is technically where the sew along is running. But yeah, so that's all good. So next week we'll be looking at the flying geese. So by the time next week's Quilt Tube, I should have, hopefully, if I can get everything done how I want to get them done, all the flying geese done, which means then the half square triangles, the flying geese will all be done, and then we can just start piecing. So let me just show you how the block is made up. So you have a centre square, which is nice and easy, surrounded by the lighter or neutral rectangles. In each corner you've got these large half square triangles, and then above each of the white rectangles you've got flying geese. I mean, you could equally do these with half square triangles if flying geese aren't your thing, but flying geese, there we go. So it kind of looks like the block is sort of folding back in on itself, doesn't it? It's a cool design. I really like it. So yes, so that's how the block's made up. And that's the sew along. If you're still interested in joining in, you're not too late. You can definitely catch up. As I say, we're only on week 2, and week 2 runs right around until next Monday, when we'll be starting flying geese. But you know, some of you have sped on. I know you have, because you've sneakily sent me messages saying I've gone ahead a week, and that's fine. Do it at your pace. Yeah, it's just nice to all be doing the same pattern, and then we're probably all going to use different fabrics, and even if we use the same fabrics, we'll have like different ways that we've put it together. So it would just be good fun to see how everything turns out in the end. So that is an update on the sew along. I'll put a link in the description to the pattern. It's a Missouri Star Quilt Company pattern. They kindly gifted me the fabric to make the pattern and to do the sew along. What should we update on next? Let's do the hometown quilt. Now, this one here, yes, it is covered in pins because I've pinned everything in place. I just wanted to show you where I've got to with it. So this is the teacup house quilt. This is actually July's quilt block. July's looking incredibly busy for me, both home life and business, and some work that I'm going to be doing with Missouri. So I wanted to get ahead and get this block done so that I don't fall behind with getting all of my blocks finished by August, which is the goal. So this is the teacup house. Now, I haven't finished this block. I could have done, but I decided not to. So what I've done is I've left off all the little bias edges. So on the little roofs here, on the top of the chimney, there's little stems for the flowers. This side, I think that's it. Oh, and the sun, the rays of the sun, they all take those little tiny bias edges. Do you remember last week I showed you the little picket fence, and I asked if you'd like a tutorial on how I get them so kind of tiny and how precise I get them, you know, as precise as you can get them. And there was an overwhelming response that yes, you would like a little tutorial. So what I've done is I've put together this block to show you it, but I've not done the bias tape or the little bias bindings. So I'm going to do a separate video showing you how I make them and then how we attach them, and then I get this one finished. I've left the pins in because some of the bits require attaching to those bias shapes. So I just wanted to put it together. I've applique glued it where I can. So the main house and everything is glued down. The cup is glued down, but like these little leaves, they will get attached to the bias bindings. So I haven't glued those down, but I just wanted to show you the block and see what you think of the fabric. I love the combination of the blue and the pink. So I've been excited to make this block for ages. So yeah, I'm really pleased with it. You can see behind me on the wall, I've got the other 10. And I thought I'd put them all out and I'll do some video footage and insert that so that you can have a look at them all together. In the kind of, you know, the town, looking really good. And perhaps next week I will show you the little filler blocks that I've made and we can make a plan together for how I'm going to get those finished. But I'll show you those next week. So yeah, so that is an update on the hometown quilt. I will do a tutorial on the bias binding and then we can get this one wrapped up and finished as well. So I will actually be a month ahead. So I'm feeling quietly confident that I can get the house blocks finished by the August deadline. I'm not confident that I can get all those filler blocks done. Where's my piece of paper? So I'm confident that I will get all 12 houses made, but I'm not confident that I will get all of these individual little 5-inch blocks, I think there, or 4-inch blocks made. There's a lot of them. I have made a start and I will show you those next week, but I'm not confident that they will all be made by the end of August. But the goal was to get the house blocks made. That was what Rachel and I wanted to do, and I'm confident that I'm going to achieve that, and then I can put together a little schedule of getting those blocks done. The third project, and I know you've been waiting to see, is the Arabella quilt. I have officially finished the centre panel. Woohoo! So we're good to go. This panel was made up of 4 hand-stitched embroidery octagons. So the kit, if I just show you a picture of the quilt just to remind you. So this is the quilt. It's the Arabella quilt. by Lilabelle Lane Creations and designed by Sharon Burgess. You can follow along with the Lilabelle Lane Creations on Instagram. It's such a cool account. The patterns are quite complicated. They're probably not beginner patterns. You definitely need to have done EPP, embroidery and some machine piecing before you attempt one of these quilts. And I don't think this particular pattern or this particular quilt is available as just a pattern. I think it is just a quilt kit, because all of these elements here, the long stitchery panels, they're all pre-printed stitchery panels that you stitch onto. So I think they all come as part of a kit. And yeah, so that is the quilt. So I've been working on that center panel, getting that done, because that's kind of like installment 1. That's the main focus. So that was EPPing all of these octagons. I've never EPP'd an octagon before, but it definitely won't be my last time. Attaching all of these squares and then attaching them to the 4 embroideries that I've done here, the 4 flowers. So that is now done. My next job is to add on the blue border all the way around. And I got a bit confused with the instructions, because it says to cut a long strip of fabric and then you're going to applique this to that, right sides together, and then kind of fold it back. And my brain couldn't quite compute by just looking at the instructions. So I think what I need to do is probably lay it out and do like a little dud one. So I'll lay out just the paper octagons onto it and just work out how that would all work and what I need to do. But there's fixed measurements that you need to use to make sure that everything lines up and everything. But my brain couldn't quite compute with that this week, so I'm going to leave that until I've got, you know, sometimes there's those projects where you can just pick up, do a bit and run. And there's other projects where you come to a step and you're like, I need to take a minute and really make sure that I'm understanding the instructions before I take that next step. I don't want to ruin this one. I'm not worried about going wrong as long as I can correct that mistake, which I'm sure I would be able to do. But I just want to make sure that I'm understanding it before I spend hours doing an applique stitch only to find out that I've sewn it onto the wrong piece or something. So I will get that done. But yeah, so that is my Arabella quilt. This is all using the Liberty fabrics that came within the kit. And I must say, I am loving this quilt. And it's going to be massive. If you think this is just the centre square, it's going to be a huge quilt when it's done. That's an update on my whips that I've been working on this week. Now I've also got something else to show you. So I'm looking at it because I've got it hung on the door. I'm going to stand up in a minute and hold it up for you. And it's made me a bit upset actually, because it's my longest standing whip and I'm annoyed at myself that I never finished it. And I actually, hand on heart, don't think I ever will finish it now. So when Bella, who is my eldest daughter, she's going to be 13 in a couple of weeks. So when she was a tiny baby, I started this quilt for her. And I've never finished it. So let me stand up. I'm going to move the chair, stand here, and I will show you the quilt and then we can discuss it. This is a big quilt, so you're not going to be able to see all of it. So it's a giant alphabet applique quilt. It's massive. Let me fold it in half so you can see the bottom half. And I've even laid it up and added the backing, even though it's not ready to quilt. I've kind of sandwiched it just lightly with a little bit of spray, just so that I kept the backing and had enough of the wadding and didn't use it in another project. And I did this a couple of years ago actually, thinking, well, you know, I'll put it all together and then we can kind of go from there. But it's a giant quilt. I'm not quite sure how big it is. And I think actually it was supposed to have a border and then a rainbow binding. I can't even remember the name of the pattern. I can't remember the designer. I remember buying it at a quilt show and bought it as a kit. So it came with the fabrics, it came with all the applique, it came with papers with the applique shapes on them so that you could trace them through. And so each of the applique shapes was traced through. Some of them had to be done in reverse and then added to fusible interfacing and then fused down onto the white fabric. And then I have, painfully, this is probably a good one to show you, blanket stitched by hand around every shape. I'm hoping that you can see this on the camera. I think this is a good one to show you because it's got contrasting thread. The chicken. Let's get that on the camera. I will insert some footage of me kind of hovering over the quilt so that you can have a look, and I'll insert that kind of here. And then it's got all the letters of the alphabet, which again I've done and blanket stitched around. And let me tell you, I do remember how much of a pain it was to do like the hand stitching in the middle. But some of them are starting to detach now. Look at this lion, his mane is starting to detach from the quilt. I found this kind of bundled up in a tub. And I'm annoyed because it was an expensive kit. The thought was there, you can see how much work has gone into it, but now the kids are so old, they're just not going to want it. They did come and have a good look at it when I found it. I actually found it Monday. They did have a good look at it and they were like, well, who are you making that for? And I was like, well, you guys, but I never finished it. Let me just fold this back up. I'm just going to hang it back up on the door. I want your guys' suggestions. Like, what should I do with it? Should I gift it to someone to finish it? Should I just, as is, just quilt it so it's done? Or should I just put it in a box and wait and see? I'm tempted to kind of give it a freshen up and then put it into some kind of like, you know, you can get those bags, the zip bags, the big zip bags that you can suck the air out of, and we can store it up in the attic. And maybe one day, if my kids have kids, I could pull it out and finish it for their kids. That'd be for my grandkids. That might be an option. I've just sort of fallen out of love with that kind of applique. I don't enjoy doing the blanket stitches around all those little shapes. But it is a lot of work and just feel ashamed not to do something with it. So let me know your suggestions. And also in the comments, let me know, what is your oldest whip? Be honest and tell me what your oldest whip is. I might also put that question to Instagram or Facebook, and I can share with you the results next week. Bonus points if you can send me a message with some pictures. I would love to see our oldest whips in this community. That's definitely my oldest. So this would be around about 12 years old, because Bella's going to be 13 next month. And I started it when she was a teeny baby. I can remember sitting and breastfeeding her whilst having it laid out in front of me, fiddling with it. And yeah, I can remember doing it. And I can remember also sitting when she was having a nap. She'd have a nap in one arm and I'd kind of have the blanket over me, and we would be doing some blanket stitching in between those kind of times. So there's a lot of like nostalgia wrapped up in that quilt, but I have also just fallen out of love with that style of quilting, that kind of applique on that kind of level. I'd never make a quilt like that again. Now, you might remember last week we were talking about patterns, and I've been giving myself a real good harsh talking to this week because I have not been releasing any patterns. I've got an abundance of ideas. I've got ones that have been semi-planned, some that have actually been written and just need to be kind of edited and just tech checked. And I've just not got round to doing it. I've just been so busy with other things, and I think I need to make sure that I plan some time into my week for that particular activity. I miss it and I enjoy it, and I love being able to say to you, here's another pattern, and then for you to grab it, make it, and then show me how you've made it your own. So this week, well, last week I mentioned this one to you. So this is called Daisy Spin. It's a big 12-inch block, and it's made up of half square triangles and these other squares all sewn together in such a way that it looks like it's moving, and when you join them all together you get the most amazing secondary pattern. So this is called Daisy Spin. It is now available on my website. I will drop the link in the description box below. It's only a couple of quid, as all my patterns are, but it is written step by step. So there'll be no guesswork. Loads of pictures to show you exactly how things slot together, which ways to cut things, how to do things quickly. Yes, it's a very, very, very detailed pattern. So, and the good thing about this is when you learn these techniques, you can definitely transfer them to other quilt blocks. Also other things that you could do with this quilt. So the other one that I think I would have a go at doing is actually extending the yellow up to the top. So you have a full cross of yellow with the orange. And I think that would be really cool as well. So there's lots of things you can do. You could alternate all the colours and have like rainbow blocks. Yeah, if I get a chance in between this video and next video, I'll have a play around and see if I can show you some other kind of colour options I've come up with, and also what it might look like as a giant quilt. But if you want the pattern, I'll pop the link below, and I will pop a little discount code for you to go and grab it for half price between now and the weekend. So that pattern is now available, and it's called Daisy Spin. Now, let's have a little sip of tea. This brings me on to a little bit of show and tell. So, as hopefully you know, I am a quilt block pattern designer and pattern writer. And this is how the Beginners Quilting Hub started. I started by creating really detailed, really beginner friendly step-by-step instructions for a multitude of quilt blocks and adding them into my Etsy store. That's now kind of morphed into a website as well, so I do still sell through Etsy. In fact, I'll pop the link to Etsy as well, because I know some people prefer to purchase through Etsy. But I will make a sample or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 of every block to test it out. And I found my sample pot. This is not all, but quite a few of the blocks that I've got in my shop currently. These are the samples that I made, testing out the patterns, seeing how the colour goes, and so on and so forth. So I thought I'd show you a few of my best sellers. So this is the Friendship Star. Now, it's a simple block, but there's some real techniques and some real learnings in this if you want to start practicing with half square triangles. And I made quite a few of these. So this is it in solid colour and with a neat little chevron through the middle, the blue stars and florals. And there is many, many, many more. Now, one of my favourites is this one, which is the Star of Hope. And it's made using these 3 triangles to form the star points. These are made with Lori Holt fabrics and I love them. This is definitely one of my best-selling patterns. So I've made loads of samples up to show you how they all look in different fabrics. It's a busy one, that one. And you see the difference between the two. This one's very obviously got the 2 stars going round. This one just looks like a really funky star. I think this is my favourite colourway, the pink and the greeny blue. Gosh, I've made so many of these. It's another Lori Holt one. That's the same. So that is the Star of Hope. Now, that's paper piecing. Let's come back to that one. Now, these, little competition. Tell me in the comments, which one did I make and which one did my daughter Bella make? So we both made one. And you tell me if you can work out which one she sewed. Now, she used my instructions and kind of with me over her shoulder helping her. Okay, so this is called the Diamond Star. We called this one because it's stars made of diamonds, obviously. So that's another one. Really nice block, that one. What else have we got? Oh, we've got the Spinning Geese. So this one is made with sort of baby kind of quilt vibes. The cutesy little fabric, and then there's this one. So you can see a completely different look depending on the fabrics that you use. Then we've got the Churn Dash, which is always a popular block, and again I've made this in baby cutesy fabrics potentially, and then the kind of more sort of softer tones, and then this one. This is a log cabin. Now, a log cabin is one of those blocks that I recommend all quilters to have a go at making. I'll show you the back of that one. Is that coming up? Yeah. But It's such a fun block. It's one of my favourites once it's made. And there's so many things that you can do with a log cabin. You can start with your square in a corner and build it across that way. You can, so with a log cabin, you put your centerpiece in and then you kind of go, which way am I going? This way. And you go around building it out in size. So you can keep going for as long as you want. But there's loads of variations to log cabins, and there's the courthouse steps, for instance, where you start with your square and then you go top, bottom, left, right, top, bottom, left, right, and you end up with a completely different look. But you can also really play with colour with a log cabin. So I've done the traditional way, the red in the centre, followed by one side being one colour and the other side being the other colour. But I've also made them where each round is a different colour, so you end up with like a rainbow effect, or every single one is a different colour, so you end up with a completely scrappy effect. So log cabin, if you haven't made one, I highly recommend you do. The pattern gives you the measurements for every single piece and the order that you need to sew them all in. So that is a really good one. If you're looking at, I wouldn't necessarily recommend the log cabin as a first block, but it's a really beginner friendly block. So that's a really good one to try. This is a cool block. I love this block. I'd like to actually make a whole quilt in all different colours. So that might be one that I do actually make. I've then got the heart. Now this just shows you how fabric can play into it. So this is a simple heart pattern, again a really popular pattern, and then add another colour to it and you get a completely different look, and add a backing, more colourful backing, and you get a completely different look. So that's the heart block. Another really good block is the bear paw. Some people call it a bear claw, some people call it a bear paw. I like bear paw, so we're going to go with bear paw. And I've done this in lots of different colours as well. So I've done it in blues and dots. I've done it in this really funky floral orange, which I love. I love this fabric. I must dig through my stash and see if I've got any more of that. I've actually put together, should have shown you these as I was going through, 4 bear paws together, and you get this shape. So my thought was, this was just kind of testing to see what it would look like. 4 different colours would look amazing, but equally 4 squares of some kind of picture panel. So if you had something that you could really fussy cut and have really cool patterns in here, this would look really good. And doesn't it look complicated with all the little triangles? But actually it's just 4, it's just made up of 4, if I fold it, it's just made up of 4 bear paws. So again, there's so much you can do with this block. Oh, I've just realised, so this spinning, the spinning top one, I made this as well. I put 4 of these together as well. This is using Tula Pink fabrics and some solids. But isn't that cool? And imagine that as a giant quilt, all different colours, or even the same colours. You would end up with this cool kind of step going up and across your quilt. And then you'd have so many kind of secondary patterns going through that. And then I've got, there's the churn dash. So the churn dash block, I also remade that into Tula Pink fabrics again, to show you how that might look as a quilt, as a cushion cover. So I've used 2 different centre square colours and then kind of built it up, and you get this amazing secondary pattern again. So you get almost like a star going through, a cross going through. Can you see that with the centre point? So you would get this every single time these join together. So 4 smaller ones makes a 12 by 12 inch block. So that's another really cool pattern. And then I've just got a simple checkerboard one there as well, just to have a look at playing with colour. Can you see how I've got them going through diagonals and then through? So that's the bear paws. What else have I got? I've got a few other stars. So we've got this one, just showing you a difference if you add a further half square triangle into the corner. And again, if you put a different centre, it gives you a completely different look to this one. And also playing with the whites in this as well. I think out of the 2, I prefer this one with the additional white because it just brings out the star. This one. This is made with Liberty fabrics. And again, this is a really good one to practice your flying geese. These 2. Same block, just the fabrics switched around to give a completely different look. Let's whip through a few of the others and show you these. There's just so many, I won't go through them all. Let me know if you like seeing these kind of samples and I can show you a few more next week. I wanted to show you some of the bigger blocks as well. So this is a 10 by 10. This is called Tied with a Ribbon. So these are the 12-inch blocks. So there's this one. This is a very popular pattern as well. This one here. And then I've got my blue heart rose block. And the rose heart block. This is another really popular one, especially around kind of holiday season. So this is the same block, just made with different colours. But there's two different instruction packs for them because the cutting is different and how you make it is different depending on how many colours you use. So that's another really popular block. A quick peek at some other ones that I've made and just not finished the patterns off for. The cotton reels. This one that just makes me think of licorice all sorts again. And again, I want to get a pattern out for that. I think this is going to be called something like Star Splash because it just makes me think of like the stars kind of just splashing out. And then I've got some other big stars. Can you tell I like stars? So I need to get these patterns done. Yeah, I mean, there's a whole pile more, but I think that's probably enough for today's video. But let me know if you've enjoyed seeing these and I could do a bit more of a show and tell of my samples. Put them all back in the tub. I will pop links below to both my Etsy store and my website. I will pop a link below for my website, and if you go through and you purchase any patterns, and you can purchase however many you like, you will get 50% off your whole entire order. So just to thank you for being here and to encourage you to go and have a look at my patterns. And if you've been looking at them for a while and umming and ahhing as to, could you make these? You can. You definitely can. They're written for you as a beginner quilter to learn how to do these blocks. And if you're not sure which one you'd like to try, maybe you want the first block or just to have a go at one, send me a message and then we can make sure that you've got the ones that will be most suited to you. And that's absolutely fine. And then of course, my newest one, which is called Daisy Spin. So I think that's probably all I had to show you this week. I will put together a tulip tutorial. Do you remember the tulips from last week? If you haven't seen that yet, I'll put a link to last week's Quilt Tube in. So you can go and have a look at the tulips. And I've picked some fabric and I think actually we're going to make a bunch for my mum. So I thought we could make those together and I could show you step by step how to make them. And then, yeah, we'll make my mum a bouquet of tulips. So this week going forward, I want to try and have a look at the Arabella quilt and see if it clicks. If it doesn't click, there is actually a Facebook group that I can go in and see if they have any more instructions in there or guidance. I want to get the binding finished for the teacup house block and then get that pressed down and up on the wall. It probably won't get hand sewn for a little while. They tend to be the project that I take up to my nan's on a Wednesday. So I'll take one out today and I just work on a little bit each week. So there's no real rush on that. I have a potential sew along with Missouri Star, but I can't announce anything yet. I'm in the works, but it could possibly be a Halloween themed sew along. I think it's going to be a busy week. Planning up for Bella's birthday coming up. And you know what we're going to be doing with family. She wants a little weekend away to celebrate her 13th, so lots of sort of busy things going on at home, but as always I will make time to come in here. This is my happy place. I will make time to come in here and do some sewing and I can update you. Anything that you want a bit more information on, let me know. As always, if there's anything in my sewing room that you spotted that you want a bit more information on, just drop me a comment or send me a message. If you enjoy these videos, please subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell. That way, whenever I put a new video out, you'll be notified. And I do ad hoc videos. I'm trying to stick to a Wednesday night schedule for the quilt tubes, but I do ad hoc videos here and there when something comes up that I think you guys would like to know about. And equally, the tutorials will go up a little bit ad hoc. And you can follow me on Instagram. I'm on there. I'm inside Instagram nearly every day, posting videos, showing you what I'm up to and just chatting in stories, and also sharing things that other people are making inside my community as well. But I encourage you to go and have a look at my patterns if you haven't done that already, and let me know in the comments what you think and what you're working on at the moment. And for now, I will say goodbye, take care, and I will see you next week in next week's Quilt Tube. Mwah. Love you all.